தரமான ஃபார்ம்லேண்ட் வாங்க நம்ம சென்னை ஃபார்ம்ஸ் வாங்க. நம்ம சென்னை ஃபார்ம்ஸ், உறுதியான முதலீடு, உறுதியான நம்பிக்கை.
GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand. You know you are special when you're with GT Holidays.
So once a filmmaker who's come from their own and has an original voice is loved by a star, I feel like it's a red flag. It's an alarm. I think Vetri somewhere has managed to stay away from the aura of the star. And the way Bala himself was as a person, Lungi, and we had this conversation, and his perspective on things was very different. And especially when I saw Nankadavul, I was like, the film is shot in my city. And he's showing me part of my city that I never thought could be cinematic. I get very uncomfortable and sometimes I get irritated when people talk about past films. Because my thing is like, what do you mean by that? I want to make films that are doing something new even now. I'm saying he's not catering to you anymore. So your disappointment is because of your expectation.
Of what he should be.
Of what he should be. Like I'm saying, I went into a depression. I've come out of it. I'm enjoying myself now. I'm enjoying myself. I feel like I found
What helped you
a new mojo. Huh?
What helped you emerge?
It is always the films.
Yeah?
It's always the films.
Dear Anurag, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. It's always pleasure talking to you.
Likewise. I'm so excited to have you here in Chennai.
Yes.
I'm sure you come here very regularly these days.
Yeah. Acting, loving, bad girl.
The context of this conversation obviously is that your film Nishanchi is up for release.
Yes.
So we'll talk about the film and we'll let the conversation go wherever it wants to.
Yeah.
Since we did touch upon Chennai, what good feelings about this city do you have?
I have a lot of feelings with Chennai. I have a lot of emotional connect with Chennai. And it goes back to when I was working with RGV. So RGV had an office in Nungambakam at that time. And 95-96 is when I came here for the first time. And we were working on Satya. And he was working on Daud. And at Media Artist with Sridhar. And Rahman Studio. Doing music. And then working with Mani Ratnam on 2 films. Staying at the Savera Hotel. Working with Shankar on the remake of Mudal 1.
Nice.
Working with Rajiv Menon. So that whole period of 96 to 2001, I was a lot in Chennai.
Yeah. I mean, looking back, I think I had a recent conversation with Mr. Rajiv Menon about Kandukundi and Kandukundi as well, where we were revisiting the film and everything. Now, when you're looking at certain films made in those years, I don't know if it's just nostalgia, but it does feel like, hey, those were great times, weren't they?
Yeah, they were great times. There are 2 scripts that I was working with on Rajiv didn't work out. It didn't happen. They didn't happen. But those really great times. There was Landmark Bookstore where I would every day go there. I would often, I had no idea, Shobana would be, browsing through books and she was such an avid reader. And Landmark had it was such an incredible bookshop.
Which one? The one in Spencer Plaza?
I don't know. It was that head in that road that before Taj Coromandel.
Right. Okay.
That under basement shop, a massive shop. I remember I spent a lot of time there. I remember watching Tamil films without subtitles. I saw Dhanush's first film that came out. And he's playing that student and they go on a...
Thulluvadu Elamai. Yeah.
Without subtitles. And I got the film.
You got it?
I felt it.
Yeah.
I felt the film in the sense,
nice.
somehow. And I didn't get up in the sense, and that's how I met Selva. Also making friends in my age group with Sudha Kongara, Shiva. So they were all working with Mani at Madras Talkies.
Did you see the potential of Dhanush when you saw Thulluvadu Elamai?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah. And he felt like a very, at that time, very odd costume because a boy looking like that would never be the protagonist in Hindi film. And seeing his subsequent journey, is also partially responsible, and also working with RGV, the way he would cast, is also partially responsible in me being fearless in casting, say, Nawazuddin of people like,
So you're saying that had an impact on you?
of course, because when you see that it works, there's some kind of a freshness about Satya that worked. Everybody was a first timer, including the crew. Seeing that those things happening in Tamil, I'm saying Vikram, seeing his journey, because when we were doing Satya and Satya was being dubbed for Tamil, Vikram was dubbing for Biku Matre. And he was a dubbing actor. He didn't have enough work. And then he did that Bala's first film, Setu. And I saw it released on only one show. And me and Chakri went to see that one show.
Before it blew up.
And we saw it blowing up in front of our eyes. That show was also morning, 12 o'clock or something. I saw it blowing up in front of our eyes. And I'm like, one person's conviction and belief and right casting, it works much more
When you
than...
saw the film and you really felt like you were in the presence of a great film. Did you feel that then?
And absolutely, I felt that. Not just that. I told RGV and we got the rights of it. And we went there and I was supposed to be writing the script and directing the version of it. That Tere Naam thing. So somehow it was like, it had that kind of an impact. And the way Bala himself was as a person. When I went to meet him, he was sitting down on the floor in his lungi and we had this conversation. And his perspective on things was very different. And it went on to that, like, after that he did Pitamahan. Came after that.
Yeah,
Nanda and Pitamahan.
Setu, it was Nanda, yeah.
Nanda then Pitamahan. So I've seen all those films. Right? And especially when I saw Nankadavul, I was like, the film is shot in my city. And he's showing me a part of my city that I never thought could be cinematic. That had also a role in, along with Subramaniapuram, had a big role in me going back and shooting Vasepur.
Yeah. Which were great films.
Yeah. So for me, it's like, all those things had a...
Yeah, you know what I love about all of this? It almost feels like you were raised here.
Yeah. No, not just that. I found my indirect connection also here. Because at that time, all the pirated foreign language films in Burma Bazaar had some kind of a connection with me. Because there's a guy called Satik who used to come to my house. I said, for himself, he used to make copies of the film. But I didn't know those copies landed up in Burma Bazaar. I found that out much later via Mani. Mani sir told me, he says, what have you got to do with this film? Why is your name sticker on the copy? There used to be one library near Savera. If you walk down that road under the bridge, that Anna Bridge. So there was a library, used to be a video library on the right side somewhere, which had pirated foreign language films. And some of the copies that they made had my name sticker on it.
Really?
Yeah. So he asked me that question. I said, I don't know. That's how I figured it out. And later, Vetri and all those people told me this is how we saw foreign language films.
Yeah, in hindsight, those places were responsible for a lot of literacy, right?
Yeah, a lot of cinema literacy. Which is why the whole new generation that came in. So which was the kind of love that I have found here amongst filmmakers, I think is because of that.
Yeah, you talk about, because you mentioned Bala, it reminds me of a time when the voice of filmmakers was very undiluted.
Yeah.
You could look at a film and you could tell that, hey, this was made by this person.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can say that about a lot of films that come out now.
No. Some filmmakers, yes. And especially first-time filmmakers.
Yes.
Especially first-time filmmakers, you can say that. But after that, I don't know what happens.
No?
Because I've seen a lot of filmmakers, once they get into the world, that whole idea of a big film with big star and everything. So because I've gone through it myself. So when you're working with a big star, then you're dealing with a fan base. And fans become very important somehow. They are a key players in the making superstars, right? And they reject or accept a filmmaker's approach to their revered star. So once a filmmaker who's come from their own very origin and has an original voice is loved by a star, I feel like it's a red flag. It's an alarm. And then when that filmmaker comes in and that star comes in, and then it's about, do I do my stuff or do I cater to the star's fan base? I think Vetri somewhere has managed to stay away from the aura of the star.
How do you insulate yourself from that, do you think?
I don't know. I have to step away. I don't know. I can't do it. Like I remember having a long conversation with Vetri. I said, "How do you do it?" This is like, Vetri says, "I don't know what you think of me, but I think of myself as a commercial filmmaker." So I said, "What?" He says, "No, I approach things in a commercial way. I am very conscious of this person as a star, and I do my own thing. So I don't lose my voice, but I may try to make my voice commercial to reach out."
I mean, I think he struck a great balance with like
He struck
Asuran and these films, right?
Asuran was a great balance between his own voice and a mainstream film.
True.
So which is what it is, because the way I see him, he doesn't see himself. Like for him, he's like,
Yeah.
I'm a commercial film.
And yet you can tell Asuran isn't your common commercial film.
Not at all, not at all.
Yeah.
So he's very rooted, and he knows the land, the law of the land, the politics of the land, and he makes the star into the character. And he says, just look at the way I shoot action, and then you see it. Then I see Asuran different way. Then I see suddenly when the action begins, the father starts to fight. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Now I
So,
see where you're trying to meet.
Now I see where you're
those
trying to
roots.
be.
Yeah. I saw Nishanchi's trailer.
Yeah.
And a phrase caught my attention. It said a hopelessly filmy director.
It is. See, it's a throwback on. You know what happens is like sometimes you start making a film, and being a cinephile sometimes serves the idea of being a filmmaker, and sometimes it takes away from being a filmmaker. So what happens is like which is why I said before, I saw a lot of original cinema, and then Nankadavul and Subramaniapuram and Parthiviran and all those things, when it came together, is when I went on to make Gangs of Wasseypur. But before that, I had written Shul, I had done Gulal, but I grew up in Banaras and that North India. I never saw that as a place to tell a story from. Perspective came from regional cinema, right? I was telling stories of Bombay because I was fascinated with Bombay, whether it was Panch. So if you look at Panch is totally a film made by a cinephile, shot in Watson Hotel, where first film was screened in India. My producer did not understand, why do you want to shoot here?
Yeah.
I said, well, the first film was screened there. It's a cinephile thing, right? So capturing Bombay in its own rawness, or then Black Friday, or when I was doing that dystopian film which got shelved, Alvin Kalicharan, very inspired by my graphic novel reading growing up, of trying to do a cinema that didn't exist, very inspired by Sandman, Sin City comics, because the movie was not made, Sin City. But but nobody could understand that. But I was too caught up in that city world, because I would read a lot of noir, reading a lot of Dashiell Hammett, reading a lot of Raymond Chandler, reading a lot of that stuff. And you started seeing cinema and just watching a lot of cinema from across the world, that I had never looked back at my roots.
There's another filmmaker you may like who really grew up on Raymond Chandler books, Mr. Mani Ratnam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So wahi hota hai. And then which is why Nishanchi for me is like going back to what was the cinema I was watching when I was a kid, when we had no theaters, when my father would set up powerhouses, and the films they projected on those big white walls
Would you in a sense then
3 times a week.
would you say those films were rather derivative work in a way?
No, I don't see, because so for example, I was talking to Bharadwaj, and he was talking about like Sholay. I said I saw Sholay. I heard Sholay first before I saw it. Then I saw Sholay, right? Then I was putting faces to the words that I heard, because Sholay came out on a LP as a film for small towns, and by the time Sholay came to us was 79. It released in 75, but by the time it came to us was 79, right? So by the time I saw Sholay, so for me, I saw Sholay probably 20 years before I discovered Sergio Leone and all those westerns. So in my head, Sholay comes first. right? And what if I wasn't a cinephile, which is 90% of Sholay audience isn't?
True.
How does it matter to them? You're telling a story. I'm saying when we tell a story, the storytelling tradition was oral earlier. Every single popular joke, we have a Sardar in the center of it, somebody else, but it's the same joke, right? It's an oral tradition. We have different versions. I remember that when it was Mani sir that introduced me to the Tamil version of Ramayana. This is the Tamil take on Ramayana, which was very normal.
Yeah.
Which where they were not treated like, it was telling a story of the time, but nobody was a godlike creature in that.
With complexity of character and all of that.
Yeah, with complexity of character, where they're discussing before attacking Lanka. The Vanar Sena is discussing among themselves that why are we fighting this war for this person that we don't serve? I'm saying there are these elements that he would talk to me about.
I think the most favorite of conversations while I was growing up were when, in referring to mythology,
Yeah.
you could never truly take one person's side.
Yes.
You always,
Could not, yeah.
if you took one person's side, somebody else would come and problematize them and say,
yes.
but then how do you justify that?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then as I went along, I saw this film Opera Java. And Opera Java was very surprising for me because it's Ramayana. And it's an Indonesian film. So I said, why are they Indonesia mein Ramayana? Then you see Monkey King from China. It is Hanuman. Even if you look at Neja, which is the biggest grosser of the year, which has made more than $2 billion worldwide, the Chinese film, it's like a version of Chota Bheem and Bal Hanuman. What is Neja? So I'm saying those stories are also there in various parts of the country. So I'm saying, would you say that Valmiki plagiarized the Ramayana from Indonesia, or the Indonesians plagiarized Valmiki's Ramayana, or somebody else? And how does it matter? It's a great story to be told. Likewise, there are various stories of Bible, of Jesus, which have various versions. And they overlap. If you read Quran and you read Bible, their version of the prophet or Jesus, some stories overlap. How can there be common stories between two different?
Some of the Marvel films, it feels they feel like Mahabharata characters, right?
Yeah. I'm saying when you see Avengers, it is like Mahabharata. It is like they're fighting Ravan.
Yeah.
So I'm saying I don't see this whole debate about originality is very subjective, I think. And some people find I feel they're not really talking about the problem. They're talking about how ingenious I am that I found out this is taken from there and taken from where. And I genuinely feel subconsciously I do borrow a lot. Consciously, I know, I'm aware. When I was consciously borrowing something from somewhere, it's like when I saw Fatih Akin's Head On. And I know consciously I was borrowing some elements from it. So I acknowledge it by putting that opening shot in some way of the car smashing against the wall in Devdi. So subconsciously I've put that shot in there. I said, because that film pulled me out of my depression of when I was banned. Sometimes consciously you are doing this. Sometimes consciously you are paying some kind of a homage to something, which Vasan does very often in his films.
Yeah.
He does it consciously. Yeah. He's not copying. He's literally a cinephile was giving his love to the filmmakers that have inspired.
So you're saying when you're aware, then kindly do.
No, subconsciously also we do. I'm saying as long as the film as a whole works now. For me, it doesn't matter where you take it from, and what matters is where you have taken it to. When it doesn't work is when there is a problem. Then we are like, were you trying to tell your story, or were you just trying to achieve success by imitating something that's already been successful?
Do you sometimes, in searching for stories, return to mythology in some way?
I have done that.
You have? Okay.
I have done that. Not a film that I've made, but I have done that. And Nishanji is very consciously going back to old storytelling of Mehboob Khan, K. Asif, and Manmohan Desai, and films like Ram Aur Shyam, Naya Daur.
Hence the vibe of the trailer itself.
Hence the vibe of the thing.
Yeah.
So it is a very conscious throwback to the cinema that I love. It's not like, but in the sense, like Badass Ravi Kumar was a conscious attempt to do this 80s kind of a film.
Mm.
So I'm saying, going back to Salim Javed, for me, this is my most Salim Javedisk script,
Yeah.
Nishanchi, which is why I sat on it for so long. It's like, that cinema which is social. It's about social inequality, it's about injustice, but it's a fun film. It's full of music and songs and characters and fun and punchlines and
Yeah, I mean, this film, and because we were also talking about how the regional cinema that you were exposed to changed how you saw things. What I want to ask you is, hey, I know this story also seems really rooted, right? It feels like it's emerging from the land. And yet, the balance that many people try to strike, because we are talking about Asuran, is let's make such films, but let's also probably try and do certain things to make them accessible, attractive.
Make them more accessible.
Yeah,
but I'm saying,
how do you do that?
I think once you are aware, it happens organically.
Yeah? Okay.
Once you are aware, it happens organically. Because I'm very aware of, very aware of what Asuran did. Or say, for example, Pushpa 1 did. Pushpa 1, Pushpa 2, I feel, was trying to replicate what they got from Pushpa 1. But Pushpa 1 organically did something. There's one film with, what's the name of the film that with Rangasthalam?
Yeah, the Sukumar film. Right?
Sukumar film, Rangasthalam.
Yeah.
Rangasthalam did that, Ramcharan.
Yes.
I'm saying I saw Kiridam much late in life. It did the same thing. Or you see the original of Virasat, that film, what was it called with Kamal Hassan?
You're talking about Devar Magan?
No. Thevar Magan. Thevar Magan.
Yeah.
I'm saying what Thevar Magan did. They were commercial.
Yes.
But they were so rooted. So I'm saying, for me, those were the things that I went back to. And very consciously I went back to there. I said my characters are complex. But complex within themselves doesn't mean they're inaccessible. I have to make their complexity accessible. I'm also not spoon feeding. But at the same time, I'm making them fun. I'm saying some will figure it out, some will not figure it out. But it doesn't matter. As long as they are being emotionally held together, entertained. Songs were consciously done like that. This is not songs that have meanings beyond what you see on the surface. A lot of songs are original folk recreated.
You're saying, hey, they're
voice of the land,
they're their own source of fun, you're saying.
They're their own source of fun. Like we have subconsciously picked up voices that have been speaking to people, but like the guy who sang Dear Country. He's the guru of Nirawa. Nirawa, who's a Bhojpuri superstar, but he's the guru, he's the original. And he's called the Birha King. And Birha has never been used in the film so much. We have a song, Lori, we wanted Sharda Sinha. But she passed away, waited for her, she was not well. But then we got her daughter to sing the same song. Because she has a similar voice.
So there are all these beautiful connections there as well.
There's something or the other that is there. We have an old Lori. A beautiful Lori that's forgotten. That probably I have not heard since I was before 10 years old. In the last 40 years I haven't heard that. Which my music director found and turned into a beautiful song on which we have an action scene set piece. So no, it is those elements like recreating a bar.
Yeah.
No, like obviously when I was a kid, I never went to a bar. Theka, what you call a theka or a bar in North India, right? My idea of bar was when we went to college and first time went to bar and everybody was having a beer, right? But that bar I discovered for the first time in a documentary that when we were at Phantom and my producer Ranjan Singh released called Katia Bas. And then I've seen these places. I did not know that this...
What was unique about them?
It's unique. People just sit together. The tables, it's like a mess.
Oh,
it's like, tiffin rooms, mess.
It's
like that. Yeah, there's a benches and table and everybody sits together. You'll hardly see a woman there.
Of course.
And You go and behind those rods, you pay, you get a pouch, you open a pouch, you have your thing. I'm like,
But you're not
unless-
getting isolated into groups.
No, you're not getting isolated into groups. There are no things. The music also playing. People are talking over each other. You also buy your whatever you want to eat in small packets. Everything. I first time saw in Kathiawar and I realized, oh, this is a bar. I know this place because somebody from my family would go there and would say you are not allowed inside and would stand outside and would go in for a bit and get something out and we'll have a plastic packet and drink. I said, what is it?
Yes.
Thing, water.
What you also talk about seems to describe the general Tasmac experience, I
Yes.
think. Yeah.
No, but I'm saying we've not seen those things in films. How come we have not seen that real Theka in a film? I'm saying that means that North India's version of North India has not really been in movies. And we did not have enough documentaries. If Kathiawar wasn't there, then Kanpur wouldn't have existed in my head. Right? And then finding a story element to serve from there, to create from there. Because I have family in from there. I had my co-writer from there. I had a lot of things from there. And it's like, this place has not really been represented in films. And also the fact to undo that whole idea of when is Vasepur 3 coming out. I said, I am not here only to make gangster films. And there's beyond, there's a crime story, but it doesn't have to be a gangster film. For me, it's more my fun growing up, Ram or Shyam and all those films meet Dostoevsky, Crime and Punishment. So it's that kind of a zone. As a family unit, one family unit's story or 3 decades. So it's in that format, it is probably in soul, it is closer to an Asuran than it is close to anything else.
Understood. Because I love Crime and Punishment so much,
I love crime.
anybody who mentions it, I'm going to ask them to talk a bit more about it. In terms
No, it is because my introduction to crime, I read it in Hindi.
You did, okay.
I read Crime and Punishment in Hindi and that too before the age of 11. So the thing is, all of Russian literature for North India, you hardly find I remember the first book in English that you found at railway stations in UP was Godfather, Mario Puzo's Godfather.
What did
For that, everything was in Hindi.
Hmm.
And Rajkamal, I don't know who was the translator, but I read Warren piece in Hindi. I read Anna Karenina in Hindi. I read Chekhov in Hindi. I read Dostoevsky in Hindi.
What were you doing reading Dostoevsky at 11?
My house had books, and I've been an avid reader since I could read. So it did start with small comics, and then it also became very pulpy Hindi novels.
Did you get it?
I used
at
to
that
eat
age?
Ranu and Suren Mohan Pathak and Karnal Ranjit, and I used to read all of them.
So
Ved
surely
Prakash
you
Kumar.
must have revisited these books again to get them, right?
No, it's very inside me.
Interesting.
When I went to school, I was in boarding school and I read Hindi literature first, and I ran out of Hindi literature. So I moved to English. I remember the first English book I picked up was Jude the Obscure.
Hmm.
And I was all of 16. It was very complex for me and it took me a long time to read. And somebody saw me and I'm a Hindi speaking boy and it says, you're reading the most difficult book as your first book. Right? So it said, read something easy. I said, what is easy? Read Sidney Sheldon. And then I started reading Sidney Sheldon. And then every
That
time.
must have seemed incredibly simple for you.
No, not just that. It had some kind of a sexuality in it.
Hmm.
And somebody took offense to it. Then they gave me Famous Five and Enid Blyton and
I think you've gone the reverse direction.
I got the reverse direction. And then the moment I went to college, I straightway, because suddenly you're dealing in college with literature students.
Yeah.
And they talk Shakespeare and Kafka. And they talk things and Camus and Sartre. And suddenly I'm like very impressionable, 16, 17 years old. I got into that. Then I read the original Crime and Punishment. I was like, okay, the Hindi Crime and
The big
Punishment I read was this much.
Okay.
Original Crime and Punishment was this much.
Yes.
Then I read The Idiot. Because by then I was doing theatre and Manikal was making a film called Ahmak,
Hmm.
which was an adaptation of Idiot.
Hmm.
I read The Idiot. I still have that old hardbound copy of Idiot.
Hmm.
I saved it.
What do you think Anurag, the filmmaker, got out of those experiences?
I don't know. I just have a lot of stories inside me and a lot of ways of looking at it.
Hmm.
Like, it's like, and it works. I don't think it works organically. It works in a
Yeah.
very subconscious way that every time I don't know where they come from. So when I'm writing or lines are coming out, I don't know where they come from, but I know they come from my childhood.
That probably
I know they
explains-
come from my so much of reading at an age where it starts defining you when you're impressionable.
Hmm.
And I know I know exactly where my idealism about cinema and being about art and art form comes from. That I know exactly where it comes from. Because 1920s when I read letters of Kafka, they're published. And all his letters when he would talk to they were compiled together. And he wrote to his beloved and this other person and that whole, maybe as in my late teens as a teenager, I romanticized the idea of a man who stayed unpublished through his life and then got published and got celebrated. So I remember when I first time went to Prague, I found everything about Kafka, like routed my way through where his house was, where his museum is, where his books are, where he traveled, where he died, where his friend Max found his books and published them. So I went through that same cycle. I did the same thing when I went to LA for the first time, because by the time I actually had my passport and went to LA, by then I was into James Ellroy.
Hmm.
And I remember I read LA Confidential. I read the all 4 books.
You did, okay.
White Jazz and LA Confidential, and there were 2 more, The Blue Nowhere and one more book. I read all 4. And when I saw the film, I said this film, that whole climax was not there in the book. That name that he makes up, I forgot now how I'm forgetting that name. Kevin Spacey's character makes up the story and name was fictional. The writer made it up. And a large chunk of the book was eliminated, which was about the history of LA, which is also in Ellroy's My Dark Places. The whole history of LA, which also almost alluded to the history of Walt Disney.
Hmm.
It alluded to the history of how animated pornography existed at a time and evolved into proper children's thing. And it kind of, those stories, they took all those complicated parts out and they made a very lean script out of LA Confidential.
Hmm.
So I was obsessed with Ellroy at that time. So I went and visited the restaurant he used to sit and write at.
You did, okay.
I got the matchbox from there.
Did you
And
try
I've done
writing something there?
All these, yeah, because as a child, I'm like, I got my passport when I was 32 in 2004 because I had to travel with Black Friday. It got selected festival. March, I didn't travel with it.
Time to get a passport.
Yeah, so because of the film, I got a passport, and that's when I started to travel the world.
It's very interesting. I caught one thing that you said about how you romanticized the fact that Kafka hadn't been published for the longest time, right? Because it reminds me of a time when almost most artists, right, when they begin, they're not really beginning from a place of wanting success.
Yeah.
They're beginning from a place of, you know what, the world isn't going to get the purity of my art.
Yeah.
And the beauty is in them not getting it.
Yeah, that romantic.
Yeah. I'm just going to be this suffering artist. And
Suffering artist. Yeah. But a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
But my thing was like, I had soon gotten over it. I was like, I need to reach out.
Good for you.
I don't want to leave a legacy. I want to live it. I want things to happen now and here and now. Oh, that legacy wala artist mujhe nahi banna.
But it's good to have you making films again.
Yeah. No, I'm in a good, happy zone now. Like I think everybody goes through ups and downs. I would say this would be like 2.5 times I've kind of gone down. And first was when my films were not releasing.
Yeah.
Second, I went halfway down post Bombay Velvet, and this was again a total slide. And emotionally 2.5 times I have like totally emotionally
I
lost
like how
myself
it's
and
not
fought
2 or
back.
3, but 2.5.
2.5. Yeah, Bombay Velvet is only half. I don't count it as a full.
But you know what I
Emotional
like
slide.
about? I mean, I've seen the trailer of this film. I've read a bit about Bandar and I've read a bit about Kennedy. And what I like about all of this is you're not really attributing growth to scale.
Yeah.
And that's lovely. I mean, we've
I've done that mistake.
Mm,
I've made that mistake. See, there's nothing that I think we learn more from our mistakes. I made all the mistakes. I'm thinking the reason, if I was still that 27-year-old filmmaker who made his first film, Panch, I would have waited for Kennedy to release before I move on.
yeah.
But I've gone through that scale. I know that I made the film. The film has traveled. People have seen it. Now I cannot put a gun to the producer and say that release it.
Yeah.
I have shown them my displeasure. I've told them that, release it. I've told the world that I don't know what is happening. But I have to move on. I have to make another film. And I'm not going to get stuck. So while we were doing post-production on Nishanchi, I've been sitting and writing. I don't waste any time anymore. I love writing. I have got into a routine. Like, ever since I moved out of Bombay, I'm writing so much. I'm writing so much.
Are you ever absorbed with the idea of your own legacy and what?
No,
No, never.
no.
Because with most filmmakers or artists for that matter, as your body of work keeps growing, I think at some point you begin to sort of take stock of what you've done and what you hope that your identity stands for and all.
No. I get very uncomfortable and sometimes I get irritated when people talk about past films. Because my thing is like, what do you mean by that? I say, I want to matter even now.
Yeah.
I want to make films that are doing something new even now. So for me, it's like, I don't want to live off Devdi or Wasepur or Black Friday. I want Kennedy and Bandar and Nishanchi to be as good, to matter as much. And they're all very different films.
Yes.
I'm saying there's things, and there are more things I want to do. And that's why I'm writing all the time, because I'm like, okay, let's figure it out. And also, after a long time, I opened up to write for others. I've written for two different filmmakers. I've done dialogues already. I'm also opening up to.
Do you want to talk about that?
No, and this is, I don't know. I'm not, I can say like, I was writing dialogues for one Dharma film, along with Sumit Roy and Raj, who made Good News. I have written dialogues for a film with Nikhil Mahajan. And I enjoyed writing that process. And at the same time, I'm writing for some first-time filmmakers.
Is it in a way you purging yourself?
No, I've realized this. I have gone through this phase of 2-3 years in between where I went into a shell and then I found my way out, starting with Kennedy. And then I realized there's so much more in me and there's so much more that I have been watching and reading and doing things. And I'm like, cinema is going somewhere else. I'm too caught up in my own things because of too much attachment to whether it is Maximum City or things that didn't work out. So I said, I need to step out. You have to consciously step out. And I realized Bombay keeps reminding me of those things. And the conversations in that city, like in between 2006 to 2012, when I was blogging and I was listening, we used to discuss cinema and ideas and things. Now everybody only discusses box office and how many crores and what's the next big thing. And I've not just lost filmmakers to that. I've lost actors to that. We have lost studios to that. There's no old school producers left anymore who loved the cinema so much. And everybody's caught up in the same thing. And there's so many talent agencies that have come in and everything, and they start dictating, and everybody has got a lifestyle. And I'm like, okay, fine. To each their own. It's taken me a long time to get to the point where I say to each their own. They want to invest in their lifetime, they're letting EMIs dictate their choices. Those very same actors, I can't go and pitch the script to.
It's in films and stories that you say that when the protagonist wants something different, he usually ends up leaving the place where he is. Right? He moves to new places.
Yeah.
And you've done something like that, right? You're saying that's really given you new sense, new
Getting
sound.
out of there, I'm not living in Bombay.
Yes.
And I interact with journalists, writers, novelists, or people who want to discuss films and cinemas There's a beautiful spaces in Bangalore where you sit, and Bangalore also becomes closer to my filmmaker friends. Like I was 2 days back, I was in Kochi, and for this Malayali Manorama Awards, and they want to give you a hotel. I said no, I will. And Ashik Abu was there, or Lijo was there. Lijo was closer to the airport. I said I'll go stay at Lijo's house, and then me and Lijo stayed up talking till so long about the history of Malayalam cinema, and he showed me sequences of Jayan. He told me about Jayan, he had Padmaraj, and he was talking and introducing me to a whole lot of history with clips and things, and he was enjoying, and he made me listen to these songs, which are like, I thought was like, this is so modern and so new, and then we ended up talking about Charanjit Singh. I'm saying those are the things that we used to live for. And those are things I want to talk about. But where do you find that? When I sit with Vetri and me and him will sit alone, we'll talk about cinema. We talk about things, we talk about land. It's like, I want that. And I'm hungry for that. But the moment you go to Bombay, it's only about what's the business is going to be like. What's the opening day? How much this film has fallen? This film has grown. This film is fantastic. I'm so happy talking to Rajbir Shetty from So.
I mean, you're expressing the grouse of people who make films talking about it.
Yeah.
I'm saying a bigger grouse is people who watch films talking about it.
And it's like, suddenly it's everybody's business. How much... We never used to talk about how much money a film has made growing up.
I don't
Like even when we were like making films like Black Friday, Devdi, we never talked about how much money the film is making. Suddenly, how is this like...
That wasn't the marker
discussion?
of success.
That wasn't the mark of a good or bad film.
Yes.
Because when this is me and Lijo were talking. He says, Padmarajan hardly saw any success in terms of box office. But his filmmaking has changed so many filmmakers. He says, my biggest influence is him. And that's what happens. Like when people... I met some filmmaker yesterday, young filmmaker whose film is releasing soon. And he was talking about, no, I was inspired by this film, that film of yours, and that film of yours. He named 5 films of mine. I said, see, you're naming all flops. I said, you're naming all flops. And then you are having anxiety about whether your film will be hit or a flop.
Look at what your inspirations are.
Look at what your inspirations are. So I'm saying it is like, and then the easy answer is, they were ahead of your time, ahead of the time. I'm like, that's a very easy excuse to tell yourself. It's not about that. I want to make this film. I don't care it's ahead of the time or behind the time or somebody's with the time. At this moment, I have this idea and I'm happy that I got to make it.
So I guess invariably every artist goes through that phase where they, I guess like in a lot of stories, they hit a near-death experience, I guess, and then they bounce.
Yeah, no, it's the times. It's the times. I'm saying like, there was a time in Hindi cinema where you could go out and make a no smoking and a Devdi, where people could make where Dibakar Banerjee could exist with one film after the other. Khosla Ka Ghosla, Oye Lucky Lucky, Oye Shanghai. Today that same Dibakar is with a film doing his private screenings. Right? Where we were not thinking about box office. We had an idea and we wanted to make it into film.
Yeah.
But today it is like, everybody's going to sit down and first figure out how successful this is going to be. How much money will this make? Who's the star actor attached to it? Can I do a Gangs of Wasseypur today, for example, if I was doing it today? No, I can't.
No?
No.
That's
impossible. And you can't do so many things you can't do. You can't pitch it. On what basis will you pitch it? How do you pitch an Ugly? I don't think Ugly would have happened if we did not have our own studio. If we didn't have our own company, Phantom, and there's no way, because Ugly has this as a script. A story idea has existed with me since 2006. Nobody wanted to touch it. Raman Raghav Ugly only got made because we had our own company and studio, Phantom. If there was no Phantom, there would have been no Ugly or Raman Raghav.
But what does inspire hope, I think, for me, is to hear you talk about Bandar and to talk about how you think Bobby Deol has done something in the film that you can't wait to share with the world, and right on the back of a movie like Animal, for example. I think it's very cool that hey, you're able to put yourself in that position of vulnerability and say, I want to do something interesting.
No, it's not just that. It's like a complete surrender for somebody who's been a star for the longest period of his time. Then he has seen a total lull. And then when he is getting all kind of big mainstream movies, he picks a bandar and he says, I want to do it.
And that's
And
what you're
for me,
talking about.
That's what was so beautiful. Because he's thinking like, I've never been asked to just be vulnerable. He's so vulnerable in the film. Be so vulnerable and so emotionally naked. And every single scene he has performed is with such fantastic actors. Bandar is full of theatre actors, great actors from all languages, 5 national award winners. Every scene is a character study. It's a story with Bobby's character. But every scene, he's got some incredible actor who has come for 2-3 scenes. There's Rajbir Shetty in it, there's Indrajit Sukumara in it, there's Riddhi Sen from Nagar Kirtan in it, Sabha Azad, Sanya Malhotra, Jitendra Joshi, Nagesh Bhosle, Sukant Goyal, Ankush Gedam, name it.
You've got that.
It's like, and there are no junior artists in the film. They're all theatre actors. Some 100 theatre actors. But he is so vulnerable in the film. And he's put himself through it on a day-to-day basis. Every day. And he finds the whole experience. So he talks about it to other people. And everybody comes to me and says, Bobby said it was so incredible working in that film. And because of which what happens is a lot of other people want to come and work with you.
Yes.
Because of Bobby Deol is saying so. So, those are the kind of things that is rewarding.
The way you say it, it feels like you're saying, yeah, it's almost important to re-establish credentials.
Yeah. It's almost like, it's like, everybody thinks like, oh, Anurag probably lost his way. He's only complaining, or he's like, going nuts, and he's not well, and he's not maybe losing himself. And the funniest thing is, when they said he's going the RGV, I said, I talk to RGV on a daily basis. Almost like, every day. I said, whatever the man is doing, he knows what he's doing. He's enjoying himself. He's not catering to you anymore.
And that pisses you off.
Yeah. I'm saying he's not catering to you anymore. So your disappointment is because of your expectation.
Of what he should be.
Of what he should be. I'm saying I'm enjoying myself, and now, no. I'm openly saying I'm saying I went into a depression. I've come out of it. I'm enjoying myself now. I'm enjoying myself. I feel like I found
What helped you
a new mojo. Huh?
What helped you emerge?
It is always the films.
Yeah?
It's always the films. I think one thing I did was I stopped watching Hindi films. I started watching a lot of first-time filmmaker films. I started watching a lot of Malayalam films and the new Malayalam films and things. And something very strange happened when I went to shoot Rifle Club. And that was a very life-changing experience for me, which I have to thank Ashi Kapoor and Sham Pushkaran for that. When I went there, and me and Manju Warrior have the same birthday. And obviously we've been phone friends for a long time. So Indrajit Sukumaran and everybody together, let's do a birthday together. And Lee Jo came, and a lot of people came. And I was like, and suddenly it was like filmmakers, so many filmmakers who I've been watching their films of and inspired by. And I did a screening of Kennedy in Kottayam, and they all came. And I was like, yaar, in Hindi film industry, people have been avoiding me because they think I'm bad news, because I have no filter, I talk. And if they get associated with me, they might not get some studio or somebody else will get upset. And I come to a place whose cinema I'm inspired by, and they have so much love for me. And they are telling me, we are here because we used to see your film.
How beautiful.
And that suddenly things like, why am I in a place where I'm being told that, listen, people are talking about your alcoholism. I said, people are talking about your depression. People are thinking you're losing your way. And they are coming in as trying to be my savior and telling me what I must do to save me from myself. Whereas I'm going there and I'm like, they have nothing but just love for you. And they're not saying anything. They have just love for you. And they also understand what you're going through. And that love is suddenly like, oh God, to talk to them, I don't need to have a drink.
Nice.
Then suddenly I felt like, you know what? And I moved to South. Automatically I stopped drinking, because I don't have to deal with people. Automatically I started exercising.
Or people reminding you that there's a problem.
Nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
Automatically, I started writing. Like my partner, or people are like surprised. They say, you're writing so much every day. Nikhil Mahajan came and said, come with me. Come and live in my house for a week in Bangalore. He came and lived with me for a Bangalore and we wrote a first draft. He's like, how do you do that? I said, it is because suddenly I'm in a place where I'm getting love. I'm not getting judgment. I don't have people who are trying to save me or protect me from myself. I'm saying I am needed to protect me from them because they're trying to turn me into some kind of a guy who can project. You can do this. This star wants to work with you. This one. And I'm like, I'm not a caterer. I'm going to do my thing and I'll work with people who want to work with me. And the moment I moved there, everyone wants to work with you. And I found my mojo back. And I'm loving it. I'm writing, I'm happy.
I'm glad.
And I look different.
From what you said, I think we can see the answers to many problems, right? And the answers are never rooted in judgment.
I'm saying it is like, that's why it's like, see, beautiful thing I saw, I was in New York. And Coppola, after Megalopolis was declared a big flop and bomb, filmmakers got together. They did a Coppola week at Film Forum. They're seeing his cuts. And he himself turned out. You have to see that reverence and love. And that man was so emotional and about simply, the videos are there on Instagram. And he made Megalopolis using his own money, selling his own wine estate. Because he wanted to make that. And didn't work. I'm saying him selling everything to make a film of his dream defines him. Not the fate of the film defines him.
There have been recent examples in Tamil cinema of veteran filmmakers who made a film and the film not doing well.
Yeah.
When I see those films, I'm filled up with a sadness.
Yeah.
Right? But I look around and there's a strange sense of almost joy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like people...
Them falling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I struggle to get it, and it's very similar to what you're talking about Coppola here.
Yeah.
Right? It's a sense of, hey, should we not want them to do well?
I'm saying,
and
not want them to make their own film.
Exactly. Not well, as in, I don't need to wish them personal joy and personal happiness, but I'm saying we've grown up on many great films that they've made. And if a few don't work, I don't think it's something to rejoice about, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, if the filmmaking community, which actually, if you talk about economically, how much does cinema contribute to the national economy? This much. Which is why government doesn't even give a shit. Laws to support cinema or film industry. But our egos are bigger than anything else. We never come together as a community, as a unit. We only worship success.
And people are also easy to write people off. Oh, you do a mistake, it's over. Yeah, it's over. I always knew that was going to be.
Yeah. And they're like, because this whole thing is like, they throw you off. I've seen look at a Sukumar. He's the same person. Always has been. But increasingly with success, the people, some of the best of artists I've seen, what is their biggest weakness? They lack the ability to say no. So what also happens is, they're also very grateful. So when a film becomes successful and some idea which has been rejected by 5 people and one person believes in it, you feel grateful. Right? Then it depends on that one person. If that one person has done something, but what happens is that one person often, what does is, they occupy you. They become a fortress around you. They isolate you. They're like, the moment you give them that validation, you did this for me, they isolate you and they become your gatekeeper. And when they become the gatekeeper, the artist starts getting isolated. And then they get into the loop of recreating the success of the film, which was often rejected by other people. And that's where the death of the artist slowly begins.
How interesting.
And
that's
where you need
why some of these films seem like echoes of
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we try to repeat it because it took us by surprise because we are so used to rejection. And I realized that there were people who were building walls around me. They became my gatekeepers. They liked the fact that because I live in a fisherman's village. I used to live in I live in a fisherman's village when I go to Bombay. And
I see.
it's very isolated. So people with the big SUVs can't come in. They have to park their SUVs outside and walk in. They have to walk in, right? So people from Bandra or Hyderabad, they won't come there, right? People don't come there. So a lot of people become gatekeeper. This is, I'll connect you to. So I did not realize that a lot of people use me as a currency. At the same time, they're controlling my life by isolating me. The moment I realized that, I started pushing it out. It automatically changes. And when I got out from there and moved outside totally, I don't know where this new energy came from. It was beautiful.
It is.
Yeah.
It definitely sounds beautiful.
Yeah, and the biggest discovery that happens is like you don't realize somebody who's been a constant in your life for 25 years. You've seen him in various capacities, and somebody who you fought with the most because he is also the most vocal person is actually your best producer. But for me, he was always something or somebody else. And then I said, boss, this is the producer sitting right next to me. This is the man, he's there. And he's been handling things all his life. And he's the one I fight with most because he's also the first person I will go and question about things. And we'll have this argument and he'll reply to me. As compared to other people, if you question them, they will elude. They are evasive. They make an excuse. They blame it back on you. Right? And then you realize, it's like in this world, and we both have constant love for films.
Yeah.
So it takes time and it takes a lifetime.
No, you might have felt a bit misunderstood in Mumbai, but one thing I can get.
I don't think I'm misunderstood.
Yeah.
I think they know exactly who I am. It's just that they see me as trouble. They often see me as trouble because I don't have a.
No, but I think our cinema loves you.
Huh?
That much is.
No,
clear.
I know. I find a lot of love in Telugu, in Kannada, in Malayalam, in Tamil, the whole of South cinema.
Yeah.
I get incredible amount.
You almost feel like a Tamil actor to us these days.
I feel like I'm here. I love the food here. I live in Bangalore. I see the love.
Yeah.
I see the love. I feel the love.
So then when a movie like Maharaja does really well, what does that?
Took me by surprise.
Yeah.
See, because all the films that I have done, I don't know the script of. I only know the script when I see the film. Because I practice the same thing. I tell the stories to my actors. I never share my script with my actors. Because actors have a tendency to rehearse. And I believe in the way of acting is where actor has to be present and truthful and honest in the moment. So if I give a script to an actor, they rehearse and come. It's very difficult to break them. So I also I just hear the story. I make sure, I have 2-3 questions I ask the director. I make sure they're coming because I don't know the industry. I did not know Nithilan. I did not know Passion Studios. I knew Vijay Sethupathi because I have seen him from his short film days, and I reached out to him when we were producing Mard Ko Dard Nahi Hota, Gulshan's role, but didn't materialize because nobody in Hindi knew Vijay Sethupathi then. Vasan Bala's first choice was him, right? So we came and met him there. So I've known him for a long time. So because of him, I got in there. I got into Myconautical because I was working on Akira with Murugadoss. And Ajay was his assistant. Murugadoss asked me to do this film. He says, you have 25 days, you have to do this film. Or I'll work through Vetri. Or people I know and I trust.
Yes.
It's just that. And then what happens is after I go in there, I have to only think like my performance depends on the director. As long as the director knows what he wants out of me and treats me like an actor and not be a fanboy, then I'll do the film. Because fanboy's first concern is, are you comfortable?
Yes.
You're the director. As an actor, I'm not supposed to be comfortable. Emotionally. Yeah. In the sense, after the shoot is over, yes, I need a nice bed to sleep on. But on the set, I'm a bloody actor. You have to direct me. After taking a shot, what happens is like sometimes directors seek validation from you because they think I'm a filmmaker. Sir, ये shot कैसा लगा? I said, I don't want to watch the monitor. Amitabh Bachchan doesn't watch a monitor. He watches the director. And if the director is happy with the shot, he's happy with the shot. I'm saying, I am an actor. I'm not going to watch the monitor.
Did you have to do a lot of research for your Leo role?
Oh, nothing. I went there to die. And and it was so much fun. Location will finish it in 3 hours, and he finished it in 3 hours.
I finished the character also.
I went there to die, and he gave me my thing. I just, that whole sequence from Giraftar where Rajnikant smokes his BD before he gets shot. I love doing that. It's cheesy, but it's fun. It's like I did Kutte because I wanted a brutal death.
I like how even that emerges from your love for cinema.
Yeah, it's like various ways to die. I want to die in different ways.
Yeah, in a recent conversation, I heard you mention this specific phrase which caught my attention. You said Instagram influenced cinema, right? And I think that now was a great time to talk about it, mainly because
I have a very difficult time now in the sense when I see people edit films. They edit like the film is edited like such fast cuts. And I'm saying sometimes it can be effective if you do it in a particular way and you settle down. Like, Scorsese used to do fast cuts. But it's with a voiceover, it's kind of woven together. Lots of images woven together, voiceover, and then it settles down in telling a story. Right? That way it works. But now everything is like cut. Every shot, everything. Most films, they're editing while shooting.
Correct.
We finish, shoot, and then we go and edit. They edit while they shoot.
Yeah. So
it is a lot. It's like almost like, when we didn't have access to equipment and this YouTube came in and people started doing things for YouTube, and that has become mainstream. So a lot of filmmakers, because they've come from YouTube, they shoot, they edit the same way, and more than the storytelling and performance is becoming about shot taking. So that troubles me sometimes. Some people probably do it well. They do it really well. And there's a purpose in that. When there's no purpose, if they think that's the only way to do it, because people's excuses, the attention span is reducing.
Yes, that's what you keep hearing. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I don't buy into at all. Because
you don't. Yeah.
Till date, even today, the biggest of hits are films which are longer than 2.5 hours. You talk about any film. It's a big success. Hollywood, Bollywood, anywhere. The long films. And the big hits. They're not very
So you definitely don't think that's
I don't buy into
legitimate excuse that, oh no, they don't have the patience.
No, I'm saying there's a problem with storytelling, or there's a problem with the choice of story. It's not you have to cut fast and attention span.
I was revisiting the Wasepur films, and what really struck me was, it reminded me of a problem I have with spectacle films these days, which is that not enough work seems put into the minutiae of the world that the film inhabits. It really feels like I don't really get a sense of who these people are, and it doesn't feel like the spectacle is within them. For me, that would be the most authentic form of any spectacle, right? The epicness within a character.
Yeah, no, because also today characters are in the introduction of the character has become more important than really introducing me to the character of the person.
Yes.
So no, I'm like the films you do and some 4 shots are like, sir, this is an introduction shot. I said, how many introduction does the character have? So every scene, today's spectacle films, every sequence will have a hero entry. So it's built up with background score, high speed, everything, some problem happening, and then the hero enters.
Yes.
And how many times the hero will enter?
Yeah.
And the bigger problem is the whole idea of age-old storytelling is going back to the days of Mahabharata and Ramayana. Is Ram became Sri Ram after he defeated Ravana. He was not Sri Ram to begin with. When he went in, Vanvas mein gaye, when he went into the Vanvas, he was Ram. He became Sriram, because of his benevolence, because of his
How he
warrior
conducted
spirit,
himself in
because
strife
he,
and war and all of
yeah, strife and war, and his journey that he went through, and when he came back,
it.
and his reverence of his brother Bharat, the way he revered his brother, and the way they waited and celebrated him. That's when he became Sriram.
So the hero was
The idea of a hero becomes a hero after his heroic act. After he does something that's heroic. Nowadays, hero is a hero from it always begins. By the time they show his face, there's a customary some 10 shots of his feet, of his back, of his thing, of the wind, of something. And then you see the face. And the first show, audience will go, whistle and clap, and
True.
will not hear anything.
Yes. Yeah.
They come for that shot.
Yeah.
After that, it's downhill from there.
Then we'll wait for the next shot.
I think that's a big problem. It's like suddenly it's like, what is this?
Yeah.
Why is this?
But but Wasipur is beautiful because you have the scale of space,
Yeah.
and yet you're saying, I know I'm telling a vast story here that spans a huge space, but it doesn't need to come at the expense of your understanding of who these characters are. You really get a sense of what's the emotional, strength of or the weakness of many of these
It's
characters.
also, for me, it's also exploring a space is so beautiful. I'm saying Nishanji is also like that. It's a vast story. It's a vast story that spans 3 decades. Right? But the thing is also, it's important. It's not just the characters growing and aging. It's the place also growing and aging. You also see the village turning into a city. You also see everything else changing. You see livelihoods changing. You see times changing.
You see the idea of crime changing. You see.
Idea of crime totally changing.
Mm.
You see the weapons used in crime changing. You see everything changing. And there's a transition. There's a sense of the world we lived in and this sense of world that we live in. Also, the film ends in 2016. It ends 9 years ago. Starts in 86. 2006, goes back to 86, comes back to 2016. So I'm saying it's like it ends 9 years ago. But 9 years ago, the world was very different, which you see. So the idea is a sense of time and place is so important to storytelling and filmmaking.
Yeah, I was thinking about another film from your filmography. Wasipur, Devdi, these films, of course, have got a lot of love and affection. But I thought about Man Marziyan a lot. It's a film I dearly, dearly love. And the reason I thought about it is because in recent times there were 2 big films, one Thug Life, another Vida Muyarchi. And both these films were questions were raised about how a character can potentially be affectionate towards anyone beyond their spouse. Right? And how icky that was, how disgusting it was, and but the sense of, hey, life is complex sometimes. And it just got... I got a sense that maybe we were being very critical of the morality of certain characters, more than, allowing ourselves to understand this film or the feeling of these people. And I wanted to understand what you thought about this analysis that comes from a place of rigid morality. To say, I won't support you because, you flirted with someone else.
That comes from a sense of, this idea of that was inculcated in us of being a good man. I like moral conflicts. I like complexities. What I have learned over the years is how to tell it simply. I'm saying if I have to talk about complexity and moral conflicts, I don't have to say it in a complex way. I can very simply tell it. So if a character doesn't have a moral conflict, then for me it has no character. Like the most boring character for me is the girl next door. Or the boy next door. Or the perfect man. They are for me the most boring people. Like in Man Marziyan, Abhishek Bachchan in a way is a perfect man. Right? But he's also a devious man.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
He's very devious. He knows he wants this girl at any cost.
He's probably the most devious of all 3.
Yeah. He's very devious. He knows he wants the girl at any cost. He plans things. he knows how to get the other guy out of his way.
Oh, absolutely.
And he doesn't give up. And for the thing is like he knows for a girl who's so much in love, the only way to win over is just by he creates a crisis and he's there in the moment of crisis.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm saying he's a devious man.
Yeah.
But he seems like the perfect man.
He does.
So
yeah.
for me, that kind of a grayness.
But I like that he
It's
suffers
beautiful.
too.
Yeah.
You make him suffer for it. Yeah.
Yeah, they suffer because of it. They go through it and they have to get over it because there are consequences.
Yeah.
So
You
my
want
whole
to be
thing
there
is-
for her. Can you be there for her after you see this?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that kind of complexity is also there in a very beautiful way in Nishanchi, but in a very UP way.
Hmm.
And the thing is like there are consequences to everything. So characters, you are the protagonist of the film, but you don't escape the consequences. And consequences are not always about like, how Faisal Khan being a gangster, consequences, he gets shot. The consequences are very difficult. The consequences are on a daily life. If a man has done something and he wants to undo it, it's impossible to undo it. Because inherently he is the same human being. He's trying to change things on a surface level. But inside is fully formed person. He's past that impressionable age where, there's a period where people can alter themselves and understand certain things and change. And there's some who are lucky who meet the right people who guide them or write movies or write books or write music or something that shapes them. We all love things from our teenage. All of us, our favorite food is what our mother makes. Home food. Whoever it was, right? That home food was always what we crave. I'm saying our taste develops, our everything develops in that age when we are growing, when we are fully becoming the idea of what we are. Which is why we like more films and we are more forgiving towards films and art when we are teenagers and we are like until the age of 21, 25. Once we get the idea of what the film we like, we kind of become unforgiving towards a lot of films.
And people also
especially to people we look up to. Like, because we now want the same kind of exhilaration from them, but not the similar film from them. So it's like
And we can't submit that easily
next
anymore.
time Tarantino does, you want the film to do the same thing to you that Pulp Fiction did to you. But oh shit, this is not the same Pulp Fiction kind of a feeling.
He's lost it.
No, he's lost it. Scorsese made Raging Bull. This is not Raging Bull. He's not even Goodfellas. It's Irishman. But we're not saying Irishman for being Irishman,
Yeah. I mean, because we were talking about the structure of films now, right? I thought I should talk to you about, someone recently was talking to me about pitching a film for OTT platforms.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, for the theater, for features, I'm allowed to set up a film. I'm allowed to set up the conflict of the film and all that. But OTT platforms come and tell me that the structure of the film needs to begin with a thump and you need to keep it on the ascending momentum until it reaches a pinnacle, and that's it. There is
that's a algorithm thing, and that is a problem that I have only found with one platform.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I have
you don't think this is true of OTT platforms in general?
Not at all.
I see.
Not at all.
Okay.
Only one platform. But because my film is Amazon MGM film, and how this happened was, I have sat on the script and guarded it so closely because I wanted to do it the right way. And a lot of people have loved the film and they wanted to alter this or that. I know this film, I know exactly what I'm making. And this world you have not seen. So anybody who's from that world tells me something, I would listen. I would also listen to my peers. Right? But I met the then head of Amazon, Aparna Purohit, on a flight from Mumbai to Melbourne. And it's a long flight. And she was caught next to me. And I gave her the script to read.
Nice.
She couldn't escape me.
Classic tactic.
And she read the script. And not just that, using the Wi-Fi, she sent the script to whole team. By the time she landed, the film was greenlit. She didn't...
Did you know she was going to be on that flight?
No. I had no idea. I was just so happy to see her. Because I had not met her in years.
Yeah.
So I was so happy to see her, and I was like, I have not been working with Amazon.
Mm.
I have not been working with Amazon because in my head I thought I have found a home there, which I did not realize that it wasn't really the home. Where I was investing.
I know.
And I was not. Then I suddenly felt like, wow, it's like, and then there was nothing. There's whenever they had any points or issues, something missing. So I have my method. I just told them, I said, why don't you just write down all your points and say it to me?
Mm.
And they gave me points. And I said, I'll find solutions. And those points were largely the issues that they think are difficult in today's day and age because of people easily getting offended.
Mm.
They're only based on that.
And you thought that was fair?
Nobody came to tell me how to tell my story. They did not. They were only suggesting, like even with music, I was like looking for music directors. They only was suggesting me and getting me access to so many people.
You didn't feel stifled. That's what you're saying.
Not at all.
Mm.
Not at all. I have not. This is incredible, beautiful support I've got, and the way the film. Imagine a film with newcomers, a film which is so rooted in the Hindi cinema and like in terms of perception, a problematic human being. Right? The way they're going out all out, and then the way they're pitching the film, the way they're backing the film. I have not had this kind of a backing in probably the longest time. Last time I had it probably was Devdi and Gangs of Wasseypur.
And we know what that resulted in.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So since then, I have not had this kind of a support system who's really going all out for the film. Yeah.
As we are nearing the end of this conversation, I thought I'll ask you a couple of more things. One, at different times, storytellers are drawn to different stories, right?
Yeah. I am.
What's happening with you? Like, what are the kind of stories that you seem really drawn to?
I have three very different films, Kennedy, Bandar and Nishanchi.
Yeah.
And there are more films that I have written.
Do you see any pattern connecting all of these?
No, see, if you see the films that have originated from me, you will see a pattern. Right? So what I'm also doing often is like, say, Bandar is not written by me.
I see.
It's written by Sudeep Sharma and Abhishek, who wrote Patal Lok. Right? Some of the scripts I'm doing are originating from someone else. I'm listening to other people's scripts. So what happens is, I know I'll bring my skill set, but let it originate from somewhere else. Because when the film originates from me, it is in the zone of an Ugly or a Raman Raghav or a Kennedy. But Devdi did not originate from me. I rewrote it, but it came in from Vikramaditya Motwani. Or Wasseypur came in from Zishan Kadri. Like, I will bring my skill set and I will do whatever to it. But when the origin is different, then things also alter.
Then the identity feels different.
It's different. And then instead of that film having my soul, it has somebody else's soul. And then I'm tailoring for that story. So I'm very self-conscious of it. And I know that I will bring my skill set to, but I am very open to people telling me scripts and stories.
Okay.
And that's how I'm doing it. Because we are not objective enough to realize when we become repetitive.
What can you, I know you're associated with Bad Girl as well.
Yeah.
With Vetri. And that film's up for release too.
Yes, it's a beautiful film. I think it's a very powerful, unique voice Varsha Bharat has. And there was a time when we had a company and me and my producer Ranjan Singh, we wanted to co-produce the film. So we had the script and we were co-producing, but the way the world works and system works, the company was shut down. But somehow I stayed on to the film because Vetri is like, you have to come and sing, because at one point when I was shooting of Vedutalai, he was like, watch the film. There's some things like you talk to Varsha and this and that. So because Varsha has worked so long with Vetri, so they often get into discussion or arguments or things like that. And it's just, I saw the first half, I was so incredibly happy and joyous, and I came out of the room and I was like, Vetri, I need to see the second half now. But he said, that's how much you love the film. He said, let's have dinner. And I said, no, I want to see the now. He said, then he asked for Vasha to send the second half. And next day we were supposed to shoot for Vidutalai. And I was like, we'll start. He says, okay, you watch the film, we'll start late. And I was like, so happy to come together. And then she wanted to meet Amit. Then I called Amit and this and that.
So that's how that.
I was like, Vasha, will you be able to? He said, no. If Amit is willing to do it, I'll figure it out. And she went and figured it out. I was like, wow. And she's so sure and so clear about what she's making. And her voice is so new, especially for cinema. I'll cut across, I think, all languages. It is such a fresh, new voice. And such a unique perspective. I think it's
Nice. We all.
what Devdi did for us then. This is what Bad Girl will do more than,
Oh, that's high praise.
I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And very happy to be part of it. And it's like incredible.
What about
And
you?
Vetri has gone all out to back her.
What about you? Is making everyone cast you as the horrible guy in films?
Huh?
In films,
I think people think
I'm looking at all these films.
people
that
think that I have a nice psycho smile, and people think I have these very big monstrous eyes. So they cast me as a bad person based on my eyes and my smile. I think I need to be like serious.
Finally, because of all your contacts here, I mean, you're a part of our ecosystem itself. When are you making a Tamil film?
I want to soon. I have a story idea,
You do.
and I have obviously a producer in Vetri, and I have something, but I am looking for a Tamil writer who will collaborate with me.
Okay, I'll talk to you soon.
We'll talk.
But really, I mean, bring it on.
Yeah. No, I want to make a Malayalam and a Tamil film. I
Beautiful.
want to make a Malayalam film. I know exactly what film I want to make in Malayalam. I know exactly what film I want to make in Tamil.
Fantastic. I wish you the absolute best with all these films that are up for release and all the films that you might go on to make. I genuinely think that when Anurag Kashyap is making films, cinema feels like a really good space.
Yeah, I really, I'm back to what I think like, because I think my biggest, you make your own mistakes and you learn. I should have never had a company. Well, obviously, some films would not have been made, but I think I have always worked my best as an individual filmmaker with not other responsibilities.
Hmm.
And now that I don't have any company and I only want to work as a writer, filmmaker and things, I'm back to who I used to be.
Welcome back.
More free. Yeah.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you, Sudhesh.
Thank you.
தரமான farmland வாங்க நம்ம சென்னை farms வாங்க நம்ம சென்னை farms உறுதியான முதலீடு உறுதியான நம்பிக்கை
GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand. You know you are special when you're with GT Holidays.